So without getting too far into the details of this, when I was a teenager, I lived in the woods in the back of a park for a brief period of time, a couple of months. And I had built myself a little campsite. I had like a little log bench thing and a fire pit in there, and it was a little bit of a clearing in the trees. So mostly at night, I would be sitting there making a fire and just hanging out. Every now and then I would have friends there, but most of the time I was just sitting there alone. And everything was all chill until one day I started hearing noise coming out of the woods. For a couple of days, I chalked it up to animals that I just couldn't see. But then after about the third day, I heard somebody clear their throat. It was like, and I was like, that ain't no fucking deer. And I knew it couldn't be kids partying or smoking pot because they'd be laughing, talking. You know, kids are dumb. And for a period of time, this went on. It wasn't every single day, but a couple days would go by, and then I would hear the noises again. A couple days would go by, I'd hear the noises again. Fast forward about 6 months, and I'm back inside. I'm not living in the woods anymore. I'm living at my mother's house. And me and a couple buddies were looking to do what teenagers do in the woods, and we decided to go to the same park. As we're driving down the road, now picture it's just a long road. It ends at the park, and then behind the park is a bunch of woods. And we see this guy walking down the street, and he was just like a weird-looking guy. I mean, if you saw him then, you would have said the same thing. He had like a full-blown skullet, which is a mullet with the top, completely bald. He was kind of chubby, wearing a bowling shirt. He had a mustache. He just seemed like a strange guy. We drove down to the park. We went into the woods. We did what we were going to do. And then we came out, and as we were walking back to the car, here comes this guy. As he's about to walk into the park, this dad and his kid get out of their car with fishing poles, and the dad goes to this guy and stops him and says, "Hey, is there a lake on the other side of this hill?" Which there was a lake on the other side of the hill. And the weird guy freaks out and he goes, "I don't know. I've never been past this spot right here." He took one step, turned around, and started walking the other direction. I was shook, dude. That was like the most blatant lie I ever heard, but it was at that moment that I knew that was the fucking guy. Well, here's another warranty job. Hopefully you have something to say about this one. So this one is the commercial water heater that I was on recently that basically burned up all the wires and burned up the pilot assembly. And I finally got the parts for it. It was a big pain in the ass. I had to deal with FW Web, and the guy over there was a dipshit. I've come to learn that a lot of people judge the quality of products, but they don't judge enough on the quality of the people selling it. So, something to know around. But you can see, look at this pilot tube, look at these wires, everything got burnt up. We're going to figure out what the problem is. I haven't gotten into that. I have to start this unit and figure it out. But trust me, I have suspicion. Look at this pilot tube. That whole thing got melted up. I mean, when that happens, this thing must have been getting pretty hot. But luckily, after roughly 40 minutes of phone conversations and about 10 emails, I was able to get 5 parts that I didn't need and not get 3 parts that I did. Luckily, I was able to fill in the gap with Johnstone Supply, but that's neither here nor there. I would give them a plug, but they've fucked me pretty good, too, before. So, anyway, I changed the wires, I changed the fuse, I changed the pilot assembly. But I could tell that it wasn't drafting, so the first thing that I did was I opened up the chimney. That was going to be the most obvious choice, even though I pretty much know what the problem is, and I could tell that this is backdrafting. So we have negative air pressure inside of the room, which didn't surprise me because I didn't see any air openings. But look at this. We have some on the outside. There's the high one. There's the low one over there behind the gas meter. Now we're going to go inside. Let's see if we see them. Okay. There's the low one. You see it, right? There's the high one. Right there. Come on, you don't see it? Anyway, see you on the next one. Well, since you guys love the warranty work so much, here's another warranty job for you. This was a repair that was done by us actually in 2017. And the guy who did it, when he put it in, basically the customer was having problems with it kind of like every year since then. Now, the only reason that he didn't say anything or force anybody to do anything is because he's friends with the boss and he didn't want to have to put that responsibility on him. Which I kind of had to step in and say, listen, this is fucked up. This is your friend. He's a nice guy. If this was some screaming idiot that was acting like a piece of shit that we hated, we would have already done it. So that's a whole conversation of a whole nother code of ethics thing that we could get into. But I personally don't like treating shitty people well and good people like shit. Plus, I knew the guy who did this job in the first place, and I've done countless numbers of his callbacks, and they're always big ones like this. When he fucks up, he goes big with it. Plus, the excavators that he was using at that time were jerk-offs. I hated those guys, and they were always in a rush to get out of there. So they probably hit the pipe with the bucket, and, maybe they covered it up. Maybe they didn't even know about it, but that's definitely what happened. But on a lighter note, I got a call from the gym today saying that I won a raffle. I won like a Yeti cooler and some other stuff. It's pretty sweet. I just want to make a point of that for all the people that say, like, oh, karma's going to get you in my other videos. Like, they don't even fucking know me, you know, bro. I give good, I get good. Plus, I have, by and large, the sickest mohawk around town. I'm like a big rooster or something. So check it out. We got this all together, and I put this Fernco on there. This is an asbestos cement by PVC Fernco. And I worked really hard to get a bunch of copper and stuff into the dirt. I shoved a bunch of copper pipes inside of there. I'm just trying to inhibit the root growth. I wrap the copper pipe around the edge, and then I'm going to case the whole thing in cement. So I got Dave putting this bed in there, and I'm just going to cover that whole thing in concrete. And that's it. See you on the next one. All right, here you go. I'm going to walk you through the process of kinking a water line. Now, this is a case where a township is actually holding the customer responsible for changing out their curb boxes. And me personally, I don't really like to just pull them and let them fly. So I got this tool. It's made by Rex Wheeler. It's called a Kinky Dinker. Kinks in a blink. No kinky stuff in the comment section, please. And actually what you saw me do there was just crush the pipe down so that it stops the flow of the water. And I could put a box on easily without any water coming back at me. Now, once I have the valve on and shut off, I can basically just twist the thing the other way and do exactly the same thing. It's not going to make a perfectly round pipe. It's going to be square, but, you know, the water doesn't care what shape it is. Now, a lot of people may say, oh, well, that kink could cause a leak. Well, that's fine before the box is the township's problem. Personally, I think they're jerk-offs anyway. Anyway, here's the finished product. This is what it looks like on the pipe, and then I had to put an extension on this one because I don't know, who cares? You know? Anyway. That's all, guys. Job well done. See you on the next one. All right, we're snaking a drain today. And I feel like everybody thinks that they can do this, but they don't realize that it's a finesse thing, you know? It's like the typical male mentality. They think that you just shove it in there as hard as you can, just keep shoving it as hard as you can, and that's going to do the trick. It doesn't work that way. It's a lot more being gentle, knowing when to stop and go. Because when you do it enough, you know when you hit the right spot. And when you hit that spot, it doesn't pay for you to just go ramming it in there. You got to be nice with it. You got to push it lightly. You got to go over that spot. Back and forth and back and forth. And when it opens up, you got to give it a little bit more. And when it opens up some more, you give it a little bit more. And then when it opens up, you give it a little bit more. And then when it's fully wide open, that's when you start ramming it in. But these people can't understand that. They just start shoving it from the start, make a whole big mess, and nobody's happy with it. And then, on top of that, they're not gentlemen enough to clean up after themselves. And then they're surprised that they got to call somebody else. Anyway, see you on the next one. All right, we got problems and solutions with a Renai tankless water heater. This one is running a code 14, which is a code for a thermal fuse. And remember that beep. First thing we're going to do is locate the thermal fuse wiring harness. We got this white wire and then this red and white wire plug. We're going to disconnect the white wire plug. We're going to leave the red and white plugged in. We're going to jump out from the white wire to the white wire. That's going to test our thermal fuse. After that, we're going to run it and see if the code still exists. Waiting for that beep. Yep. So now we're going to take the board out because we're going to have to test it at the board to see if the harness is bad. You can see that these are all the plugs that are on there. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take a jumper. We're going to jump from the first pin on this one to the 8th pin. It's either going to be a white and a white or a red and a white. And if that doesn't work, then we have to change the board. So we changed the board on this one because that didn't work. And here we are. After the board comes in and we put it in.
You got hot water? Good.
Anyway, see you on the next one.
These plumbers were corner cutters. There is supposed to be a corner here. The customer asked me to install a corner. I have to get rid of this pipe and these wires. I would call an electrician, but I only have a $20 bill on me. I will need to get change. This blade cuts cast iron quick and easy, but as of yet, I have been paid nothing to promote it, so don't ask.
So I got a call on a Saturday from my boss saying that we had a long message from a guy that had a bunch of different contractors out for a sewer problem. He said, I think he's just price shopping, but call him and feel him out, and you can go there if you think it's going to be worthwhile. So I give the guy a call back, and here's what I'm looking for in my initial discussion in a situation like this. For one, I want an explanation of the events that have taken place so far. When doing this, I'm listening to understand the problem, but I'm also listening to how the customer explains the problem, because every word that comes out of their mouth next they believe is important to me. So any extraneous details like the incompetence of the other contractor, how much they paid them, any woes and sorrows of their current life situation are all red flags. If the story sounds something like, I was picking up my father who just had knee surgery and I haven't been to work in a week, and when I called these guys they charged me $500 and they had dirty boots, hang up. All right? Telling you. I want to hear the breakdown of the symptoms and treatments like a patient chart in a hospital. Here's what happened. Here's what was done. Here's what happened. Here's what was done. The second agreement we need is money. Not just that you have to pay me to come out, but also that you may need to pay for additional diagnostics. But the most important money agreement that we need to come to is that no concessions will be made for the money that you have already paid to others. What am I supposed to do? Take it off of my price and take the guy to court myself? Fuck that. Also, my agreement to provide a written estimate is not an agreement to beat somebody else's price. It's really just as simple as that. If we can come to these agreements, then we can surmise that our relationship will be mutually beneficial, and you're going to get what you want, and I'm going to get what I need. Here we go. It's a 4th of July road opening. It seems like I always have to do jobs like this on a holiday weekend. Now, if you follow my page, this is actually the same job where I thought it was the cable company that put their cable line through the pipe. And it turned out I was totally wrong about everything, including the location of the pipe. So was the other guy who was out before me, which made it extra confusing. But we dug it up, we found nothing, and then we did another location, and then I had a third party come out and do another location, and we found it in the street. So we had to do the whole political rigmarole, you know, you go cry to the engineer and the road department and all this other stuff. And we got the permission to dig it up, and we found PVC under the ground, and look what we found here. So we got Schedule 35 white pipe, and then SDR 35 green pipe, and then look at this. This is the best part. We're right over the top of the water main, and we got fern cones. The fern cones collapsed, dropped the pipe in the street. My snake was into the dirt. We couldn't even get it out. We wound up cutting the thing into pieces and just leaving part of it into the ground. So I cut it out, and here is the part that I actually do the work. So I'm opening up a can of OD heavy-duty glue, and very carefully in my OSHA-approved safety goggles that I forgot that I was wearing, I went ahead and I put some adapters, because we're going to put Schedule 40, because they always give us crap about Schedule 40, but they never make any of the builders put it in. And I had to switch from the heavy-duty glue to the rain or shine, because there must have been a dripping faucet or something inside, and the rain or shine, you know, it's better for stuff like that. Here you see I'm cutting the pipe. I have a Sawzall. My ratchet cutters were not big enough to cut that. Not for lack of trying, of course. And I put this together. It turned out I had to use a fern coat. I used a fern coat and I put cement underneath it. Then we had to sit around and wait for an inspection. But once that was all done, we got to backfill and we bedded it with DGA. We put a little bit of the fill back, and then we just did DGA for the rest of it, compacted. This guy Bobby is really good. You know, he does a really good job at this type of stuff. He just recently closed on a brewery, so he's living his dreams. He brews a beer. It's called Esker Hart. He was working with a brewery in Connecticut before, and now he's going off on his own. He just, you know, is opening his brewery probably the beginning of next year in High Bridge, New Jersey. So that's pretty awesome. I'm glad he's living his dreams and stuff. But I am going to miss him when he starts doing just that. But hey, follow him on Instagram. So we got this buttoned up. We got everything settled. Now we just got to do the final compaction test. And it's a go. See you on the next one. So one time I went out to this guy that had a small leak in his ceiling, and I wound up selling him $14,000 worth of stuff. Basically wound up changing every toilet, every sink, doing all kinds of stuff in the house. You know? And realistically, he was paying me way too much money for what I was doing. Anyway, I remember thinking I was such a hot shit salesman until I did the job. And if I could paint a picture for you, the house belonged to an old couple. The one guy was a lawyer. They were Christian. They had a lot of Christian decorum around, holy water crosses, things like that, all hanging out. Now, the old man had an office upstairs. It had a bed, it had a television, it had a computer inside of it. And one of the toilets that I was changing was in his office bathroom. He had a coffee machine in there. It seemed like he spent a lot of time in there. And I remember moving this cloth shelf out of the way, and when I did, there was a pornographic film on the ground. Now, at that time, I didn't make any assumptions about who it belonged to, but I was suspicious. And I hadn't noticed anything particular about the people in this film other than there were no ladies present. Now, I was taught to mind my own business, so when I put the toilet in, I put it right back underneath the shelf where I found it, but when I put back the shelf, I noticed that the entire shelf was full of this type of material, and this time I did notice something. And it was a color scheme. Turned out he liked red hair. Yeah, the thing about commercial work, right? It doesn't have to be really pretty. You can see the guys who originally put this in didn't do it very pretty. I just recently put these valves and this pump in and, did this whole setup. I actually got to change some stuff inside of this boiler, and the supply house gave me all the wrong parts. But the thing about working in a place like this is, like, after I'm done here, I really can't go anywhere else because I'm so fucking dirty and covered in dust that, like, I wouldn't let me into my, your house. It's like, look at that shit. This is everywhere. This is everything you touch. That chair, if I sit down on that chair, look at that. That's what I don't like about commercial work. Hey man, there's a lot of people that agree with you, and there's a lot of people that agree with me. Now I thought that showing you the code book, it would have been enough. But man, oh man, over the last few days I have learned a lot about fighting with people on the internet. So I'm here to lay my cards down and tell you I really don't have any other proof. I was only able to find one other publication on the subject, and it was this article, which was a good read, but it didn't get to the root of the problem,
I messed up bad. I forgot to take the trash to the curb.